Good morning and good afternoon and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to talk to you in this most strange year of 2020. And our topic of discussion today will be how to navigate the fallout of COVID-19 in the fiber world and what has it meant for the fiber production and how does it impact the sustainability debate. And without much further ado, allow me to ask the important question. Is there any part of the worldwide fiber and textile industry that has a chance to feel safe and sound about its future? Because even though there are some parts that are still doing relatively well, we're all in this together and there are holes in this boat. We'll race quickly because the time is quite of the essence through the worldwide fiber market overview and certain positions of raw materials that have been critical for the position of fibers, synthetic fibers in the sustainability debate. So COVID-19 has impacted all the world to a varying degree. And let's see how that played out. A long time ago, before COVID-19 was even a thing, in 2019, the production of fibers, as we see it, have exceeded 100 million tons. Altogether, we are discussing 104 million tons. The dominating material in this in the fiber world is obviously polyester. And we are trying to see the place of different regions. The Greater Europe region, from which I hail from, is a player, but not a very large player in all of these markets. And after we take a look at what COVID-19 has done to our business, to the fiber business worldwide, now, we estimate that all in all, in 2020, approximately 10.5 million tons of milk consumption, the total milk demand, will be lost to the COVID-19 pandemic and the fallout from the consequent quarantine measures and the hits that economies took. And obviously the largest fibers took a disproportionately large amount of hit. But indeed, polyester has lost most volumes, absolute volumes in all of this. I wanted to demonstrate the evolution of our analysis in slightly more innocent times in April 2020, when we knew the situation would be dire, but we did not realize exactly how dire it would become. This was our forecast how bad things would be. The Red Book is our annual almanac, the global supply demand report for the fibers worldwide. So this was the baseline scenario before COVID-19 was a thing. And the red line is what we expect of the worldwide fiber supply and demand to be at this moment. Our thinking is obviously evolving. And please don't take this for granted. But unfortunately, as we see now, the impact is much worse than even originally estimated. And the recovery will take quite some time. If we try to analyze how the different segments of the business and the cumulative figures were impacted, we have to take a look again at the thinking that was prevalent before COVID-19 was a thing. The steady growth punctuated by certain difficulties, but still steady upward march. The world in which polyester is dominant, number 2 fiber is cotton, and then the other materials follow in the diminishing order. Now that COVID-19 has taken its toll, we believe that the recovery will take some time before we come back to 100 million tons. And if we look to 2030 versus the previous slide, we will not recover the lost volumes in the coming decade. Now, as you all know, the previous years have been already quaintly probably punctuated by worries about availability of raw materials for different synthetic fibers. Well, the good news is that the raw materials will be available. More than that, they'll be plentiful. If you are in synthetic fibers business, and specifically in polyester, you'll have plenty of raw materials, especially paraxylene and PTA. 2020 was already difficult for everybody who was making paraxylene due to oversupply. So again, if you make paraxylene, your life was supposed to be difficult in 2020. If you consume it, you were given a lot of options where to buy. Now, COVID-19, compared to this rainy day, COVID-19 has delivered a scenario that can be called raining cats and dogs. The demand has been in polyester consumption has been hit, and the operating rate of paraxylene production units have fallen. The supply will continue to grow. The capacities are continuing to grow, whereas the growth of demand is slower than what we hoped for. Indeed, if you are in polyamide, especially in polyamide 6,6, you do remember the consistently bad stroke of luck that befell anybody who buys raw material for polyamide 6,6, the shortage of more or less anything in 2018 and 2019 due to a slew of force majeure scenarios in everything connected to polyamide 6,6, specifically dipodinitrile and HMD, hexamethylene diamine. Good news to you, to deliver to you, polyamide 6,6 raw materials are now plentiful. The bad part of the news, obviously, is that some of the demand on the fiber side has been lost, substituted by other materials. The good news is that the producers of raw materials are coming up with concrete steps to saturate the market with a new supply, specifically of ADN and HMD. Already many things have happened. So far, we have not seen a resumption of force majeure epidemic like that befell the industry in 2018, 2019. The biggest production site for dipodinitrile, Butashimi, has undergone successful debottleneck, and another site in the United States, Victoria, is on the verge of getting an upgrade, and a brand new world-class site in Shanghai, China, is being built by Invista, the leading supplier of ADN. So in theory, it's good news. If you're in polyamide 6,6 fibers, you'll have plenty of supply. The reduction of demand is quite significant, so that is definitely not good news for those in this business. The supply and demand are important, but even more important is the world that we live in. Fibers are a contributor to this sustainability debate, and the future relies on us safeguarding this world. Sustainability is defined as per United Nations 1987 Brundtland Commission definition as the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. And Now, what are the ways we could reach sustainability in fibers? That could be via departure from non-renewables, either as feedstocks as an energy source. We could circularize the fiber material via recycling. Now, we could minimize otherwise the environmental footprint via all kinds of emissions and workplace hazards and waste and pollution. It's more than just recycling. It's more than just biobasing. It's a lot of factors happening at once, and they have to be taken very seriously, each of them. And just in the middle of all of this is the destabilization of the worldwide industries by COVID-19 pandemic. The future depends on all of this working together, and COVID-19 is the wrench thrown into this complex mechanism. The renewable solution in fibers has not been fully found yet. There are components to fiber sustainability. The biosourcing, it has its own weaknesses and strengths. Recycling as well, and biodegradation. There are not many ways how you can combine all of these and simultaneously not break the question of pollution and workplace hazard. There is no single ideal solution. Biosourcing alone, recycling alone, and biodegradation alone do not solve the issue. Now, the biggest working model of recycling in this world today is the polyester industrial model. Now, where more than 9 million tons a year of polyester materials are being recycled into fibers. One of the difficulties is that the model is not sustainable going forward, sustainable in its own, as there is a strong competition from packaging industry to circularize or close the loop from bottles to bottles, or otherwise from packaging to packaging, which means further down the line, the fact that some of the producers of bottles and other food packaging will try to circularize their own raw materials, will withdraw some of the existing feedstocks to the fiber industry, especially polyester fiber industry. We with colleagues tend to call the upcoming decade the bottle wars, as polyester will become more scarce. I'm running out of time. I'd like to say a few words about with Mackenzie Fiber Service. That's a company that hails from PCI heritage, the analytical house that publishes monthly and more long-term analytical products in fibers, in polyester, in nylon, in spandex, and other materials. As well, annually we produce our annual global supply demand report called the Red Book, and I'm ready to take questions from the audience. Thank you for the attention. Thank you for the ability you have given me to speak to this distinguished audience.